Welcome to the DSEF. The Direct Selling Executives Forum was created to be a place where real direct selling executives and vendors in the space can come out and share solutions to challenges that face us all in the marketplace. Our guest today is going to be unpacking a topic and sharing their raw thoughts for you to learn from. All right, let's go meet our guest. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our next episode of the Direct Selling Executives Forum. You are in for a treat today. I am super excited to bring out Kelly and introduce her and start this show with Umair. If you are brand new and you're just watching for the first time and you're not a part of the private LinkedIn group, that's where the good stuff happens. This show isn't made for everybody in the referral marketing direct selling space. It's made for you, the executives who run the companies. And it's a very honest, authentic time of us just sharing frameworks that have been helpful to each of us. And today's a really good one. Today, we're talking about connections over conversation. And it's such a beautiful thought. And I was so excited that Kelly had actually written a article about this on LinkedIn. When we saw it, we said, okay, we need to unpack that idea further. But before we jump into the show and start, for those of you who have not met Kelly Lewis before, Kelly's originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now calls Virginia Beach home. She's a proud Buckeye from the Ohio State University, mom of two amazing daughters, Kayla and Kendall. That's awesome. I have two daughters as well. See, Kelly and I get that in common.
Yes.
All right. When she's not working, you'll find her lifting heavy things. She is an athlete, soaking up the beach and getting lost in a good book, or traveling with a killer playlist. Professionally, Kelly's a business development leader with over a decade of experience in direct selling. She's known for innovative strategies, purpose-driven leadership, the ability to build high-performing sales teams. Isn't that what we all want? And her track record includes securing a multi-million-dollar national partnerships and designing impactful onboarding systems to help others succeed. Gang, if you hear the numbers of the real company names that she helped succeed, it's humbling is how amazing Kelly's work has been to so many in the space. Her work is deeply fueled by personal experience. After losing her mom to breast cancer in 2014 and being diagnosed herself only 14 months later, she founded a nonprofit that provided practical support like meals, rides and appointments, childcare, pet care, and lawn services for others fighting the diseases in the Hampton Roads area. This chapter of her life drives her to a mission-focused approach and passion for helping people discover what's possible on the other side of crisis. And Kelly, I really connected there. I lost my own mother and my uncle in the same year to pancreatic cancer, and I wish that experience on no one. And yet at the same time, I guess I am grateful for the few moments we have with people right before they are gone and transition to heaven. Yeah, it is something. So definitely check out our non-for-profit. We'll link in the show notes, gang. If you haven't yet connected with Kelly on LinkedIn, please do. With that, we're going to start our show. So I'm going to pass it to Umair, and we'll go ahead and get rolling. So Umair, the show is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. What an honor, ma'am, to have you join us on the show today. As we kick off, the topic of today's conversation is rather very interesting, and that is connection over conversation.
Mhm.
So my first question from the panel is, you've got an incredible story in this space. Where did it all begin? And for those listeners, that have not met you before, what brought you to the place you are today?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My journey oddly starts with me working as a senior logistics engineer for a very large automobile company.
Wow.
And which has nothing to do
Yeah.
direct selling, but there is where I really kind of honed in my training skills. I was the first logistics engineer for that company, and I traveled all over the country teaching others to do that. So when that manufacturing facility closed, I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And my neighbor was having a 31 party. I had no idea what 31 was.
There's an
She
Ohio
promised
brand.
it is Ohio brand, but I didn't know at the time. Like I had no idea. And
Yeah.
so she promised wine. And so I went across the street. I went next door rather. And so when I
Would've worked
got
on
there,
me too.
again,
I love it.
Yeah.
there is a message in that. Do you know what I mean? Like
Love.
wine will get a lot of people places. I'm just throwing that out there, just saying. So when I got there, I didn't know anything. I missed the entire presentation. I was an hour late because I really hadn't planned on coming. I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. But when I got there, I saw the products and the people and all. And so that night, I purchased a product, I booked a party, and decided to become a consultant. That's exactly how it happened in that evening. And
Cool.
so that was the beginning of my direct selling journey. And I mean, I started on the ground, boots on the ground, in the field, in the trenches. And there at 31, I spent over a decade building and leading teams and working with thousands of people across North America. And I began to see really early in my career that your business should mirror your life. And the way you show up. And so that's with empathy and curiosity and authenticity and kindness, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, what drew me in and what really hooked me was not the sales at all. It was the transformation that I was able to help other people go through, and mine as
Wow.
well. You know, and so I got to help people discover their why and help people really dig in and find out what their goals are going to be and blaze past them, you know. And, you know, when we talk about my mom and her last few months of life, I had my daughters were little, and my mom was sick, and I threw them in the car, drove to Ohio, and I was there with her for a month and a half, and I never had to worry about work.
Yeah.
I brought it with me.
That isn't
And
that
that's, you
amazing?
know,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
amazing. And
Yeah.
being at that other job where I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, that would have never been possible,
Yeah.
Yeah.
ever been possible.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that I could help one person have that, it makes such a huge difference. So my mantra has always been one, love like Jesus. And also, if I
Mhm.
can help one person every single day, I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that picture, Kelly. I think about it all the time that success in sales, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people who don't understand our space, they think that selling is about like coercion or convincing, and it's the exact opposite. Labeled it so well, you say love like Jesus. I've actually taught that idea to my same sales teams and my organizations is like sales is love. And if you're actually truly loving someone well, right, you're listening, you're serving,
That's exactly it.
you're anticipating a need. Like it's like the most successful salespeople I know in the world. It feels good to be sold by them because they've
Yeah.
loved you well
Yeah.
in that. And that love like Jesus picture is a really good picture. And I know we're going to get
Yeah.
into frameworks today to get ahead, but in your story is amazing. That moment you just talked about with mom, I think is something that is part of the bonus fruit that's so special in direct selling when the space is done well, that we create opportunities like that to have a culture of freedom for our people. At times, if you don't get that, you miss out on some of the gift that this space is creating a culture
Yeah.
of freedom where someone can spend 6 weeks with a family member in their last days or can take care of that issue with their child or whatever that is that comes up is a big part of what's so special here in this space.
Ginormous part of what's special. You know, I always say the ROI is insane in direct selling, like $99, and I get to spend like the last 2 months of my mom's life with her. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Exactly.
that's in, yeah.
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 Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, it's an inspiring story. Thank you, Kelly. Question number two from the panel is, you recently wrote an article on LinkedIn, that grabbed our attention on the power of connection over conversation. So what do you mean by connection over conversation? Let's hear from you.
Yeah. Connection over conversion. Yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And
conversion. Sorry. Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. But it's really just about shifting the goal of the sales conversation. You know, for so long, we've been trained to close a deal, overcome objections, push towards a yes. Like, people don't want that. Nobody wants to be closed. No one wants to be closed. You know,
Yeah.
they want to be understood. People want to be understood and treated kindly. And so when we prioritize the connection, you know, we're saying, I see you, I hear you, and I care about what matters to you. Like
Yeah.
that's what's important. And so sometimes that results in a sale. Sometimes it does not. But either way, like you've planted that trust. And in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in, like trust is the real currency, you know? In that article, I talked a little about this person that I knew, and I was calling to, you know, talk to her about the sale that was happening. And when I called, I felt it and I knew something was off.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I had told her I was going to call her and tell her about the sale. And so I mentioned it and she was like, yeah, you know, it's just not the right time
Yeah.
right now. And instead of leaving it, I said to her, hey, what's going on with you? Like, what's
Mhm.
happening right now? And
Mhm.
so we talked about essentially what it boiled down to is her finances weren't there. She didn't have a lot of support and she was just trying to find her way. And it was just a horrible time for her. And so we just had the time to connect. I would call her, check in on her with no other motive than to be kind and
Yeah.
empathetic and make sure she's okay. And eventually, what ended up happening with her is not only did she make a purchase later, but she also became one of my biggest advocates and eventually a team member and a leader on my team. And so it's just a matter of being kind. It costs
Yes.
nothing to be kind. And so if you go into a conversation going in for the sale, it's very likely you're not going to get it because no
Yeah.
one thinks anything other than you're going in for the sale. Your body oozes that,
Yeah.
you know? And
True.
Hmm.
so if you go in the mindset of, I want to connect with you
Yeah.
and let's see what happens, it changes the entire conversation.
And what
Truly,
I love
truly.
about what you just shared there, we always try to do shout outs to book recommendations when we can. Talked about trust being the real currency, and many of
Mhm.
us have read Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. But his
Yes.
son wrote Speed of Trust, and if you haven't checked out Speed of Trust as a book or grabbed it as an audio book during your workouts, if you're working out with Kelly in the morning, right? Because she's always working out. Speed of Trust, really good one for you to add to your list, gang. For everybody who's listening, I know we give lots of book recommendations. I loved about you talking about kindness. I have a line for I
Yeah.
have a middle child who some would say is bossy. She's my second daughter. Others would call it displaying executive leadership qualities. She tells us all what to
Yes.
do all day long. And the last few weeks, my wife and I have had to we have the saying in our house when she's telling her siblings and everyone else what to do all day. We've been saying, kindness is free. It's like
Yeah.
my mantra at the
Yes.
house. This is the last 3 weeks with
Yes.
a very determined 5-year-old has been just reminding her, hey, kindness is free in that
Yeah.
moment. And we all need to hear that at times. I think that's
Yeah.
a really good message because about oozing on a call or oozing on a connection. Some of our distributors think they have to convince or coerce other people, and then it repels others, and
Yeah.
they miss out
Yeah.
on what could be if they were just being kind and connecting and
Yeah.
listening in that world. And in addition to that, desperation doesn't attract anybody ever. And we say
Yeah.
No
this all
one.
the
And you're
time.
True.
not
Yep,
fooling
yep.
anybody. You're not,
You're
Yep.
not fooling
nobody's
them.
fooling. No,
No one's fooling you.
no,
Yeah. And
no.
so even in your most desperate moment of, oh, I really need this, that energy is going to actually push it further away inside of your system.
Mhm.
So you gotta remember what Kelly's saying here. And some of you already teach some of these things, and then some of these are reminders for you, right? Where you haven't gotten
Yeah.
back on this topic in a while. And then some of you are saying, I never said it that way. And so as you're getting these aha moments, whether you're on the live stream or whether you're listening here and you're on the comments, you can just say bingo. If you're getting one of those thoughts in there, just say bingo. We'll all celebrate
Yeah.
your bingo moments here later.
Yeah.
But let's jump into framework. So I know there's questions about that. So we'll pass it back to you,
Yes.
Omer, and we'll get right in. Let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. The next question is if you had to share one framework with us, so we could apply these principles to our own organization, what would that framework be?
So I've been using this for a long, long time, and I call it CARE. And it is curiosity, acknowledgement, respect, and engage. And so
Wow.
the curiosity is to ask open-ended questions and listen with the intent to understand, not
Yes.
respond. Acknowledge is really validating what you hear. Like a simple, like that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
goes a long way in building that
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
R is the respect
Yeah.
and respect where they are on their journey. Honor their no, honor their pause, honor
Yes.
their doubt. Again, going a long way in building that relationship with them because it is a relationship building business.
Yes.
And then the E is engage, stay connected, like even without the conversion, stay connected,
Yes.
follow up without pressure, keep the relationship. You never know. Like we're just in such a beautiful space where we can build all these incredible relationships and then nurture them. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be transactional. It should never be transactional, to be quite honest with you. So that framework, the CARE is not flashy. It's not crazy.
It
But
works.
it's transformational. It
Yeah. It's
works,
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it works.
I love your note of curiosity because assuming you know someone else's situation is never gonna open up the door into something good. Like assuming is the worst posture. And if you put it on a
Yeah.
spectrum, there's assuming over here, And then curiosity is way over here. And
Yeah.
helping people remain curious and know to remain curious with others is something special. Have you had any tips, Kelly, of just like with your organizations of like, hey guys, here's how you remain curious about others? Has there been anything there to dig a little deeper on that one before we move on? I'd love to just unpack each of these four a little bit more.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
for me, I have always been incredibly curious. Like, not always, that's not always the best quality to have, but it is my quality. And so I
sure.
really want to dig in and get to know someone. And I was thinking about my time at Beauty Counter. I was field development manager for 2 years at Beauty Counter. And
Incredible run there. That was a
Yeah.
wild
oh
time
my
to be
gosh,
there. Yeah.
it was really
I don't know
just a
if you slept. Did you get to sleep at all during those 2 years? I don't know if you slept for 2 years.
yeah,
I mean, I've looked at
no,
your guys'
I did
numbers.
not.
That was insane. Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not. It was insane and it
Yeah.
was beautiful. But one of the top leaders in the company was just not doing what she'd done before. Like she
Yeah.
just wasn't doing it. And, it was really like kind of like, what is happening there? So instead of having this conversation with her about, what's going on with your sales and your team and all of that, it was, hey, I noticed that you haven't been on a lot of these calls. Is everything
Mm.
okay with you?
Yeah.
Because of this.
Mm.
And what I uncovered is that one, she lost both of her parents within a year.
Ah,
And
so hard.
she,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and she just was having a hard time coming out of it. And she wasn't finding the joy in what she was doing.
Mm.
So my work with
Yeah.
her was not about her sales, but it was what brings you joy in this.
Mm.
And let's
Yeah.
hone in on that. So that became our strategic planning is finding joy, just joy. Not sales, not recruits, not new training for your team, just joy. And it transformed, it changed her business. So I'm
Yeah.
always telling people, I always tell people, get to know what's happening underneath. That's the story you want.
Yeah.
That's the important.
I love that. I always think that when you start something, you think it's here, but then when you get here, it's over here, right? And it's like, oh, we would
Yeah.
have never
Yeah.
gotten there if we didn't take the time. And so I love that picture, and that's such a powerful story for others. Comes to acknowledging others in like an authentic way, right? Because I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
like cheesy ways we acknowledge others, especially with like AI today, Kelly. One of the issues, like I run across, I'm sure you do in your email too, where people are like, oh, saw you're a Buckeye. Awesome. Oh, me too. Go team. And then their emails about like something totally different. And it's all these AI tools that are skimming our LinkedIn accounts and
Yeah.
trying to get our
Yeah.
attention to get through spam filters. So I
True.
understand what's happening in our world right now, but like in a world where AI automations are creating cheesy acknowledgments just to skip through all of our filters to get to us, is there anything extra you found that you're like, hey, this is how I authentically acknowledge people, or anything else you'd like to share on that topic?
I find a way that I can connect to what they're saying because we're human. The
Yeah,
human experience is in fact the
shared,
human experience.
the shared
Yes,
part. I like that.
it is a
Yeah.
shared thing. And so I
Yeah,
really find a way that I can connect to them, like even vaguely, so that
sure.
I always want to try to
Yeah,
not necessarily walk in their shoes, but like put on their
yeah,
coat. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
and
you
Yeah.
just kind
yeah,
of be in there with
Yeah.
them and understand because when I acknowledge you and say like, yeah, that makes sense, or you know what, I've heard about
yeah,
something like that,
Mhm.
or my God, I have never experienced that personally. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like just the acknowledgement of what they're doing,
yeah.
I think it just changes. But I really try to, that's it, like put on their coat. Like
That's
I can't
good.
walk in your shoes, but I can put on your coat.
Mayor, what I like about the way Kelly shared that is sometimes in direct selling and MLM, we're taught to like, oh, connect
Yeah.
on shared experience. And it turns into one-upmanship is what happens. It turns into this
Yeah.
conversation where people are like, yeah, we just went to Disney with the kids. It was awesome. And they're like, well, did you do Universal? We just did Universal. And you're trying to connect on like, yeah, we enjoyed Florida too, but it can feel weird. And I like your picture of put on their coat and acknowledge some shared experience is something
Yeah.
for us to teach because we don't want to be teaching one-upmanship in connection to people. That doesn't help, but we do want to teach
True.
shared human connection, right?
For
Oh
sure.
man, we could actually do an entire podcast episode on what you shared on respect. So let's just take
Yeah.
one minute before we move on. You said respect and honor them. Was you used the word honor, and I think
Yes.
that's actually really important. As you've taught sales teams from all over the country with all kinds of different backgrounds to respect and honor people, what's been helpful in respecting and honoring others, Kelly? That's a really good one.
I always ask, how would that feel if someone said it to you?
Mm.
How would
Whole
that feel
golden
if,
real, like
yeah,
the golden
exactly.
rule Christian principle right
Golden
there.
rule,
Let's bring it
exactly.
back.
Because I would never want to feel like I'm being cornered by someone in a
Yeah.
sale. So why in the world would I do that to someone else? So
Yeah,
that is where that respect comes in for me. I always
good.
have always coached to what would that feel like to you? Would that feel good? If that would feel good, then yes, that is it. If it wouldn't, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that to anyone else, honor where they are. Everyone should be
Yeah.
honored. Yeah.
That's
Amen.
that is crazy solid. That's good stuff. One that I actually teach all the time before we move on is I actually teach my own teams on engaging ideas of these like there's some fun passive engagement things you can do when the timing's not right for somebody where you're still in front of them, but it's not always you texting them and calling that I really enjoy. Like when you were sharing your framework on engage, I know one of the things I love doing is just adding someone on LinkedIn. Like they're going to see my stuff. So I don't, even if
Yeah.
I'm not calling them actively or texting them actively, I may have a follow-up appointment in a month with them or in 2 weeks or another time. But anytime I ever have any conversation with anyone, I will always just take a moment after that call to add them on LinkedIn because then they're
Yeah.
passively seeing my posts, passively seeing those connections throughout their
Yeah.
day while we're connecting. What have been some for you?
Yeah.
Like when you think of engaging others, I'm sure for regular distributors would be like Instagram or Facebook, some of the social connections, but have there been any others that
Mhm.
you've enjoyed of like, hey, this is my passive engagement strategy when it's not just calling and texting, right? Which is what we've done for ages, right? In that world.
Well,
Yeah.
so again, like that kind of is my thing because
Hmm.
I love connecting on social, but I think people are exhausted with connecting on social a lot.
Mm.
I'm not. I love it, but that's not
Hmm.
everybody's story. And so I always make a list of 20 people every single week. And I always send a voice note. I send a
Nice.
voice note to people
I love
every
that.
single week just because I want to stay connected. I am that
Yeah.
person that really want to connect with you. And we don't have to talk on the phone, but I want you to hear my voice to know that I mean it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
love you and I really want to make sure you're okay and things are going
Yeah.
well. And that I believe is one of the single most things that built my business because people knew that I would just call and check on you. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure you're good. And I had the socials and I had the connection and the community on
Yeah.
social, but I think that personal just 20 people, I could do it in my car, which is mostly where it all goes down is in my car. I could do it in my car while I'm driving and I could just, hey, checking in, seeing how you're doing, what's going on with you this week. We have not talked in forever. We should figure something out about that. Just something as simple like that has really, I think, makes a huge difference. Yeah.
And gang,
Amen.
if you haven't taught that, I just have to just sidebar here. What Kelly's talking about, voice notes are one of the most powerful pieces of technology
Yeah.
that we
Yes.
have in communication because you could hear it in her voice, right? You can hear her energy, you can hear her passion, you can hear her love. And for so much time, like, man, if I would have had Apple voice notes or WhatsApp or LinkedIn voice notes back when I was
Yeah.
full-time building, when I was building my NR business, and
Yeah.
we were very blessed. My sister and I, we were the top earners in Illinois. We made a ton of money in that
Mhm.
business, but we sat and listened to rings all day long. We were
Yeah.
on our
Yes.
Blackberries. There was no iPhone, so we were on Blackberries at the time and just ring, 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 ring. Okay, voicemail, voicemail, and then ring, ring. Today, gang, your call volume for
Yeah.
your reps who are using this, if you haven't, I mean, some of you do this with your kids and you haven't thought about it for prospecting with
Yeah.
your direct selling
Yeah.
business. So double down on what the gold Kelly just gave you. Your reps can literally they can knock out 70 to 80 follow-up touches a day in less than an
Easy.
hour. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Because they're just
Easy.
dropping voice notes, dropping voice notes,
And I
dropping
was
voice notes on their
literally only
device.
doing 20 a week. And one, it's so great for a new consultant too,
Oh,
that
Yeah.
it's
intimidated to take a call
Yeah.
zero
and not
rejection.
sure what to say on text.
Yeah.
Like, don't even worry about what you're saying. Just say, hey, I've done this really cool thing and I want to talk to you about it. But to be quite honest with you, girl, I did not want to call you. So this is it. Let me know if you're interested. I'm gonna send you a little link. It's
Yeah.
so easy to do. And one of the things I will say about that is that I have not, I mean, 31 sadly just shut down in December,
I
but I
know.
was out of
Casualty of
the
our
field.
industry. We love Cindy.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yes.
What a
Oh,
Cindy. We hope you do
heartbreak.
something cool in the future. Everyone loves you.
Love
She
you
spoke on
too.
this show last year. So yeah,
I love
all
her.
good stuff.
I love
Yeah.
her. Even 3 years out of 31, people were still
Yeah.
calling me, asking me, and referring me for things because
Yeah.
I built that connection, because I really, truly meant it.
Wow.
So it is so powerful. Again, social is fantastic. My God, it's fantastic. But for me, the engagement has to be very personal, very, very personal.
I'll share one note on that. I have found in our world that
Mhm.
I don't judge somebody else's preferred channel of communication. This took me longer to get to than I should have, but for me and my role, I love what Kelly's saying because what I find, I call it, we call it social bombing to our team, but what
Yeah.
we end up doing is we'll reach out to somebody on phone, email, LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, all at the same time, the first time. And wherever they reply,
Yeah.
we honor it and
Yeah.
we reply back in
Yes.
that channel only because people have their own choice and know that you can do the voice text thing we just talked about on it. You can do it on each of those
Yeah.
platforms. So
Yeah.
it's not limited. You can even do it in email. Like it's all you can do it across them all.
Yes.
Yes.
So just as a note, is like can teach is that you reach out in all channels and then honor the one they reply in because that's the one they
Yeah.
desire to be in, right? You don't punish them
Yeah.
for not being on Facebook Messenger or not responding to emails. You just, oh, this person likes to be on LinkedIn or they love text messages. Then you double down on that with them. And that's what
Yes.
we have found over the years of doing this stuff. And I will share
Yeah.
that just to pick that apart. But we've talked about the good stuff. Let's move on to a
Yeah.
few others. So back to you, Amer.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk about the pitfalls, though. You talked about
Mm.
the principles of our organization, the care. What are the pitfalls of running an organization without this framework, care?
The biggest pitfall, I believe, is burnout. And that's on both sides.
Yeah.
Your teams burn out trying to chase numbers instead of nurturing people, and your
Yeah.
customers burn out feeling like they're just another name on your list. So without a people first approach, you really
Yeah.
create, a culture of pressure and performance instead of purpose and connection. And
True.
so that leads to higher turnover, low retention, just a sad state, a brand that's reputation lacks heart, and nobody wants that. But when you build something with trust, you build trust into your culture, like you create
Yeah.
longevity, loyalty, advocacy, and that's where the sustainable growth lives, like that in
Yes.
right in that space.
I also think you set false expectations. I love what Kelly just shared, and I think that it's burnout, and what ends up happening with that burnout is false expectations. People say you said this thing would work, and it's like, well, it works if you do it properly. It doesn't work if you do it that way, and so it's just.
Yeah.
People say, ah, it didn't work for me. And it's like, well, what did you do? And as you unpack, a lot of times they were not
Mhm.
following care. They weren't caring,
Mhm.
right? They weren't doing that.
That's exactly it.
True.
And this is usually the root cause of the pain in their life. And so I think that's
Mhm.
a powerful thought. Now, before we get to our final question this time, as we're coming into the end game, I have to give a little frame for this question before Umair grabs it, because we always have those few people who listen to the podcast that say, I've already have
Yeah.
my agenda set for the next 16 months. I can't
Yeah.
add one thing to my plate. If you knew how busy I was. And I'm like, well, thanks for squeezing us in
Yeah.
and listening to the
Yeah.
podcast. But I
Yeah.
love this question because it's for that person. It's for, and you know who they are. You've
Yeah.
worked with them before, Kelly. So we'll
Yes.
pass it
Yeah.
to Mayor, and then just know who this question's for. So go ahead. It's on
Yeah.
you.
I love it. Right. So, what's the first step, encourage anyone who's listening today to take with the knowledge bomb, you have dropped in this episode?
The the first step is
One thing.
start with one conversation today where your
Mm,
Yeah.
goal is just connection. Just one conversation where your goal is just connection.
Connection.
That's a client, a teammate, a prospect, and instead of trying to sell them anything or solve anything or any of those things,
Yeah.
just ask them like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, be curious, be present, and let the conversation breathe. Like, let it take its natural course. That's how it starts, like one human moment at a time. And you
Yeah.
stack enough of those and you build a business rooted in trust.
True.
And that's the kind of business that's sustainable and that lasts.
amazing. Well, I just want to say thank you, Kelly, for being here today and for just unpacking care for each of us and for everybody who's listening. And Mayor, thank you so much for hosting today. It was just a
Thank you.
total
Thank you.
treat to have this time
Thank
together.
you.
Everyone's so busy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's really good to get this session together. For those of you that are brand new to checking out the DSEF, or if you're watching this on one of the streams on LinkedIn or YouTube, know that you can get episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, For all the actual, you ask like, well, where do these topics come from? Get into the LinkedIn group. It's invite only by members and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. All you
Yeah.
have to do is apply that you are an active executive in direct sales and answer a few questions and you're in. So just look up Direct Selling Executives Forum on LinkedIn or go to directselling.executivesforum.com and you'll be forwarded to the LinkedIn group. But Kelly, with that, I just want to say thank you for coming out today. Thank you for sharing your framework and just thank you for the way you're loving on people. I am excited for where, well, like
Yes.
in your role with your consulting and then how you've served at companies now that Beauty Counter's gone through what it's gone through. I'm excited for wherever you land in your entrepreneurial journey next. I am pumped about that
Yes.
because I just think people are going to be
Thank
really
you.
Yes.
blessed from this. So
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
grateful, just grateful for the time today and just keep blessing people's lives. It's a
Yeah.
Thank you,
you've built
guys.
yourself a very rich, rewarding life because of the way you've loved others.
It was such an
So
honor. Yes.
yeah,
Thank you, guys.
agreed.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
You got it. Have a blessed day. We'll
It-
see you all soon. Bye for now. If you haven't yet joined the DSEF group on LinkedIn, go to directselling.executiveforum.com or go on LinkedIn and search for Direct Selling Executive Forum to apply. The group is free and is an invite-only community of direct selling executives by direct selling executives.